Hello, everyone. A very, very warm welcome to this virtual conversation being hosted by the West Africa Legal Empowerment Initiative. I am Amina Hanga, the Executive Secretary for Isawali Empowerment Initiative based in Kano, Nigeria. But before I start, I'd like to share with you that we have simultaneous interpretation in English and French. If you're using a computer, please click the interpretation button at the bottom right of your Zoom screen. You'll see a globe icon. Everybody needs to choose a language. So I'll just pause here for a few seconds so that we can hear the French interpretation and give people the chance to make their selections. So I will repeat again for the purpose of the interpreter. I was saying that we're having simultaneous interpretation in English and French, and you should look at the bottom right-hand screen of your Zoom screen. You will see the interpretation button. It's a globe icon, so make a selection, but everybody has to select a language. I believe we're good to go. In October 2019, Isawali Empowerment Initiative, with support from MacArthur Foundation, collaborate with Justice Empowerment Initiatives, and Amati, Kenya, to partner with the Legal Aid Council of Nigeria to hold the very first National Paralegal Summit in Abuja, Nigeria. It was during this meeting that we began a small conversation among 3 organizations. On what paralegals and legal empowerment organizations could learn from each other in the West African region. In 2020, due to COVID, our first inaugural West Africa Legal Empowerment Summit was held virtually. During which legal empowerment organizations identified regular exchanges as an important starting point for regional conversations and collaborations. Throughout 2021, we held several virtual learning exchanges with both English and French-speaking countries in West Africa. So discussions focus discussions focused on the relationship between paralegal support organizations and their associated community-based paralegals. And how we could use legal empowerment strategies in gender justice.
Sorry, Amina, sorry, what we're going to do is, I'm really sorry for that. There's a mix in the interpretation. We'll have to put the interpreters in the right room so that it's simultaneous interpretation. I'm sorry, everybody, please bear with us for 1 minute.
Okay, just let me know when I can continue.
No, Atom, because we have to change interpretation lines. Thank you.
Okay.
We can try it now.
Okay. So in 2020, due to COVID, our first inaugural West Africa Legal Empowerment Summit was held virtually, during which legal empowerment organizations identified regular exchanges as an important starting point for regional conversations and collaborations. Throughout 2021, we held several virtual learning exchanges with both English and French-speaking countries in West Africa. And our discussions focused on the relationship between paralegal support organizations and their associated community-based paralegals, and how we could use our legal empowerment strategies in gender justice, land and natural resource governance matters. With the relaxation of the COVID rules, we met for the first time in March this year. Over 50 legal empowerment practitioners from 15 countries in West Africa had in-depth discussions in the hopes of furthering a joint regional legal empowerment agenda. At the conclusion of the regional meeting, organizations present made justice commitments that were captured in the Lagos Declaration on Community-Driven Justice. The link will be shared in the chat box so that you could read up more about it. And this declaration serves as a guiding framework for joint legal empowerment initiatives in the region. So today's conversation builds up on our regional discussions and focuses on one of our key areas of interest, that is meaningfully centering communities in legal empowerment work. We will hear from our panelists the legal empowerment strategies they have been using to harness community power to address a wide range of injustices affecting the urban poor, rural communities, and ethnic and religious minorities. From this conversation, we hope that we will have a common understanding of what community power is and how we work or can work together with communities to address their most pressing justice needs. This also enhances their capacity to be able to take action when their rights are violated. So I would like to start us off by calling upon our panelists to introduce themselves. We have 5. They will tell us their name, their country, a brief introduction of their organization, and to tell us what they understand by community power. The panelists should please note that in the next round, you will have more time to go into detail. But for this round, each panelist just has 2 minutes. So can we please stick to 2 minutes? Just be very brief and we'll have more opportunity in the next round. I will now call upon Messan and Jacqueline to please introduce themselves. The floor is yours. Messan and Jacqueline. Are they there, Messan and Jacqueline? Otherwise, we can go to the next. Thadi?
Yes.
The floor is
Activez les
yours.
vidéos. Activez les vidéos.
Okay.
Les vidéos là. Il faut pousser ici. D'accord, allez-y.
Alors, bonjour à tous, toutes nos esprits. Oui, bonjour. Comment allez-vous? Je m'appelle Kounangbe Messan, et coordonnateur de programme de JEI au Bénin. Je suis avec Madame Jacqueline qui va se présenter.
Oui, ici c'est Madame Gossou Jacqueline, parajuriste de Cotonou.
Voilà pour la présentation. Merci.
So give us a brief introduction about your organization and the country.
Quelques risques, vous avez dit.
I don't know, there seems to be sorry, I think we're still having a slight...
Je vous remercie. C'est que je n'entendais pas bien la question, toutes mes excuses. Alors, Justice and Empowerment Initiative est une ONG de défense des droits de l'homme installée au Nigeria et au Bénin. Au Nigeria, il a 2 sièges, à savoir Port-au-Prince et puis Lagos, et à Cotonou aussi. Alors, nous appuyons le travail de communautés bidonvilles à Cotonou ici, particulièrement pour leur donner l'autonomisation, le pouvoir de défendre leurs causes, souvent passe à l'administration béninoise, et nous donnons des formations parajuristes et de défenseurs de la santé communautaire. Nous appuyons les communautés, les parajuristes à faire de la sensibilisation communautaire sur ce que dit la loi, ce qui concerne leurs droits. Nos sensibilisations sont faites sous 3 formes. D'abord, nous faisons sensibilisation à grand public par projection de vidéos pour apprendre aux communautés. Nous regroupons également les communautés pendant lesquelles périodes pendant lesquelles les parajuristes présentent des sujets de droit concernant ces communautés pour les sensibiliser. Et par ailleurs, nous faisons également du théâtre pour montrer aux communautés leurs droits et leurs devoirs dans la société. Alors, nous utilisons aussi d'autres modes alternatifs de règlement des conflits pour régler certains cas. Aussi, parfois, des gens ont des problèmes, veulent avoir accès à la justice ou à des services administratifs. Nous les accompagnons, nous les orientons, nous les enseignons juridiquement à pouvoir avoir accès à la justice en les aidant à rédiger des affaires d'assignation et bien d'autres, voire des plaintes pour saisir la justice dans des cas dans lesquels leurs droits sont violés. Donc, voilà à peu près certaines choses que nous faisons. Mais en dehors de nous développons plusieurs sujets de droit, des droits de l'homme en général, mais l'accès à la justice est la chose capitale dans laquelle nous fonctionnons avec les communautés. Merci.
Okay, thank you, Messen. I don't know, Jacqueline, do you want to say anything? Or if not, we move on to Thadi. Thadi? The floor is yours. Oh, Messen, sorry, Messen, are you going to say something? Jacqueline?
Oui, oui.
Jacqueline?
Oui. Bon, nous, à notre niveau, bon, dans la communauté, nous organisons des sensibilisations au niveau des membres de la communauté. Nous faisons les cartographies de services, les cartographies de limites pour pouvoir se prendre par rapport aux menaces du gouvernement lors de déguerpissement. Donc, ces travaux nous faisons dans les communautés. Nous organisons aussi un groupe d'épargne pour pouvoir se voir chaque mois ou chaque semaine pour nous revoir ou bien pour contribuer aux objectifs de nos communautés.
Okay. Thanks, Messen and Jacqueline. The floor is yours now, Thadi. Sorry for the bit of a mix-up. So Thadi, let's hear from you. Your name, your country, and a brief about your organization. You have 2 minutes. Thadi, the floor is yours.
Très bien. OK, merci beaucoup. Bonjour à tout le monde, c'est un plaisir d'être là. Moi, c'est Tade Adjoumasek, je viens du Sénégal. Je suis chargé de projet senior en Natural Justice. Donc, Natural Justice, certainement, comme vous le savez, est une organisation basée en Afrique et qui intervient principalement dans 3 zones en Afrique. Donc, nous sommes présents en Afrique du Sud, en Afrique du Centre et un peu ce que j'appellerais le hub Afrique francophone. Et j'appartiens à ce hub-là. Et ce hub polarise les pays tels que le Sénégal, la Guinée, le Madagascar, le Nigeria, le Burkina pour le moment. Alors, je suis aussi chargé de superviser le processus d'autonomisation juridique au niveau de ce hub. Et par rapport à cela, je supervise le travail des CHELO spécialement au Sénégal. Donc, voici ce que je peux dire comme introduction. Voilà, en attendant d'interagir avec vous. Merci.
Okay. Thanks, Thadi. Would love to hear more later. So I'll call upon Evans. We'd love to hear from you. And then after Evans, Daphne, you'll be next. So Evans, the floor is yours.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Evans Otibine from Kenya. I work for an organization called Akiba Mashinani Trust, which is a support organization to a federation of slum dwellers here in Kenya called Muungano wa Wanavijiji. So basically what Akiba Mashinani does is we support communities that are living in informal settlements in the urban, urban and peri-urban areas within the country. And we empower them economically in terms of financial, we issue affordable financial services in terms of line of credit, where we give them smaller loans to expand their businesses and therefore improve their livelihoods. Additionally, what else we do is we work together with the local governments as the county government and the national government to push for provision of basic services in these slum areas. So that is the general information about the organization. And in terms of community power, the understanding of a community that is empowered is a community that has the ability to recognize the problem they are facing. They are able to come together, organize themselves, mobilize themselves around the problem, and raise their voices until action is taken. And also to ensure that once that action has been taken, there's going to be sustainability. So they have the potential to create systems and structures to ensure that the sustainability and continuity of those solutions so that they don't revert to the problem they had initially. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you.
So thanks, that's very interesting, Thadi. So Daphne, over to you. You have the floor, your name, country, brief introduction about your organization and your understanding of what community power is.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to everyone for giving me the opportunity. My name is Daphne Lariba Nabila, and I'm speaking from Ghana. The organization I work with is called Legal Resources Center. We've been in existence since 1998. It's a non-governmental organization which does a lot of legal empowerment. We do a lot of training. We do a lot of advocacy. And in actual fact, more of access to justice as well. We run a legal aid clinic. We've done this for the past 24 years, where we look at rights violations and see how we can support indigents go to court and protect these rights. We've also been working with communities on demanding for their rights and also serve as a bridge between government and community. So we look at what the law says, we look at how it's being implemented by government agencies. We see how we can intervene in terms of empowering citizens, you know, to demand for their rights and to demand that the law for which, you know, rights are promulgated are upheld. In terms of community power, a number of things. We talk of power. So it's identifying who has the power, identifying who can exercise the power, and identifying who can defend this power. And then that will culminate into the issue of community having the power or having a voice in whatever issue concerns them. So in a particular community, in Ghana, we talk of districts, assemblies, we talk of municipal assemblies, and mostly communities, urban, rural, or rural communities are around these assemblies, and sort of seeing how communities engage with this local government agencies to demand for their rights and to demand for you know, infrastructure that would give them a better living situation. So that's how I would define community power. Over.
That's really massive. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. And I'd like now to call upon Aisha, last but not the least. So you have 2 minutes as well. Your name, country, brief about your organization, and what you understand by community power. Aisha, the floor is yours, the virtual floor. Aisha.
Okay, good afternoon. For those who are in afternoon, good morning. For those who are morning, my name is Aisha Kagai. I work with Namati. Namati is a legal empowerment organization that believes in the words of Martin Luther King. The arc of the moral curve is long, but it bends towards justice. So we advance social, which might be citizenship, health issues, and environmental justice issues by building a movement of people who know, use, and shape the system. And knowing is a journey of understanding to get to know the respective laws of interest, and then using those laws in order to be able to identify gaps. And in future, as we push for change, be able to push for systemic change, you're able to offer during policy formulation, your submission, your thoughts from experience and the gaps identified for solution.
Okay.
What do I believe community power is all about? For me, community power is the ability to equip communities with the necessary legal knowledge, skills, and tools that would enable them to agitate or advocate against any injustices that they experience. So for now, that is all I have.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, everyone. So basically, from what I've picked up is that it's about communities, equipping them with the knowledge, the tools, and how to go about mobilizing for action for if their rights are being violated. So this is setting the tone for a deeper discussion into community, building community power and how these organizations have been going about it. I'd like to just also tell everyone that you can use the chat to make your comments, questions, and we'll be reading them out as we go along. So for this next round, we will now go into a deeper understanding so that we can really clearly understand what community power is in the course of our work. In this session, each panelist will have 15 minutes each, so you can really talk on length about what you've been doing. We'll start with Aisha to share her own work with ethnic and religious minorities in Kyo. Aisha, the floor is yours. Aisha, and after Aisha will be Messan and Jacqueline from Benin Republic of Benin.
In respect to appreciating that we are going to maintain 15 minutes,
15 minutes.
highlight And if it is not so clear, I would really appreciate to get questions for further input.
So what we want, okay, go ahead.
Minorities has various departments, and among them citizenship department. And we work within Kenya and Bangladesh. But I will talk about Kenya. And in Kenya,
the ethnic and religious
with various communities. But I'd like to describe the Nubian community. The Nubian community came into Kenya maybe 100+ years. And they were forcefully migrated by the British colony as British soldiers, and others referred to as King Rifles. And they came in during the colonial era. Before the British left Kenya as a republic, they were able to divide Kenya into ethnics and also administrative borders. And we had them divide us into 43 ethnic communities. And so the Nubians, while the British were leaving, they were settled at the heart of our capital city, a place called Kibra. And capital city Nairobi is a cosmopolitan county. And so no one can have a right over it. No ethnic community can actually have a right over it. And so they couldn't be defined as the owners or the demarcations of the Nairobi County being under the Nubian community. So by the time the British were leaving, Indians were lucky enough to be recognized as some of them British citizens. While for the Nubian, they weren't British citizens, nor were they in any of the demarcations that could qualify them among the 43 ethnic communities in Kenya. So they left, and now we had subsequent governments that maintained the administrative borders, maintained the 43 ethnic communities. And Kenya is such an ethnic community to an extent that 43 ethnic communities are in our constitution. Now we've grown to 45 with the various advocacies. Some communities like stateless communities have been included.
Aisha, sorry to interrupt. Can you just sort of slow down a bit because of the interpreters? Thank you.
And when they were left here, I hope I can continue. So they were left without any recognition. And it's not just such communities as the Nubian community. We have minority communities along the borders. We have the northeastern region of Kenyan Somali speaking language. We have the coastalians along the coast who are Swahili and other stateless. And all these communities are communities that we work with. And it's because we want to tackle the issue, and there are approximately 5 million Kenyans who are perceived to be Kenyans by law, but are treated differently when accessing identity documents, either because they come from a minority community or they profess a particular religious group. And in this case, Islamic faith. So these minority communities, do not access identity documents easily. While it is very direct for the 43 of the mainstream tribes, for them, either they have selected days or have rotational vetting sessions. Like in Northeastern, they would wait, if I am 18 today, and I want to apply for an identity document, if vetting is not on my, it hasn't come to my region, I would wait until when I will have the vetting committee in my region. That can take a year, can take 6 months, can take 2 years. And if I haven't been vetted, I cannot start my application process. With the challenges I've mentioned, these communities cannot be able to access government opportunities or entitlement. Most important, basic human rights. No access to education, no access to health, no freedom of movement, no right to vote your leader of choice. And you can imagine how many more. And that's why I keep on saying identity, access to identity is a matter of all rights. So you can imagine this community and you put yourself into this position, who before they can actually hold on to an identity document, have to go through rigorous processes, administrative challenges, back and forth from office to office, no clear direction why. And further, have the burden to prove that you're indeed Kenyan by presenting as many documents as possible. And remember also, the vetting committee is not just a panel of ordinary people, but the registrars, security personnel, and you should defend yourself and identify and provide evidence that you're Kenyan. You scatter, you act confused, it's questionable. So that led to the Nubian Rights Forum and the Mati, among other organizations, Open Society too, to kickstart a legal empowerment program in Kenya with the Nubian community to begin with, whereby community paralegals were employed, went through rigorous training and training specifically for citizenship rights, nationally, regional, and international. Then they were left deployed to have the mandate to ensure that they empower their community members through casework, whereby they get clients who, upon reaching 18 years, want to access an identity document, go through a paralegal who initiates the first stages of application, maneuvers through the process, the challenges I identified back then, maneuvers through those challenges until the individual is able to get an ID. And as they do this, they document every information in a cloud-based data known as Salesforce. And the purpose of documenting this is to have empirical evidence that questions asked have no linkage to identity or time frame between when you applied and when you got the document is way beyond the statutes, no? Or even documents asked are not the normal documents as stipulated by the law. Because when people talked about discrimination, it looked far-fetched. There was a need for authentic and empirical information. Other than that, paralegals undertake community forums within the region. They do door-to-door outreaches where they knock doors, ask whether you have an identity document, why don't you have it? And then the importance of having one. Other than that, they have radio shows where they talk about the issues of identity, civic education to the populace, for them to understand the importance of having an identity document. The processes to undertake the laws that govern citizenship rights in Kenya. And this is because, remember I said, no law, so that you can use it and shape the system. What are the challenges that you experience while building a community power? Communities must face similar challenges, but might not be united. So disunity. 2, lack of political goodwill. We are dealing with minority communities and specifically marginalized communities who cannot easily have their own representatives. In parliament, in the county assembly, or even a president. Thirdly, lack of legal knowledge. When communities are marginalized for long, they accept the status quo. They accept whatever comes to them. They abide by it in the fear of not being recognized, in the fear of being profiled, in the fear of intimidation. After which, there's a need for them to have knowledge and an understanding as to why they shouldn't be in that cocoon. Fourth challenge, short-term solutions. Because when you have these challenges, present yourself to the government officials that would indeed provide solutions, but wouldn't have an impact on the policy change. So it's not long-lasting. It doesn't have an effect to finally make the identity system an inclusive and fair system. Fourth or fifth, globally, we have realized that identification has been securitized. And so that those who profess the Islamic faith are seen as potential security threats and hence have to go through a lot of scrutiny before they can actually apply for a document. It doesn't matter if you're a Kenyan citizen from the mainstream tribes or from the minority tribes, but if you profess an Aisha name, then you go through different channels while accessing documentation. What have we done to address the challenges that we've experienced? Strengthen unity with what? Evidence, the data that paralegals have been collecting, sharing within the community, letting them see that indeed these are things that are happening. Secondly, story sharing, a lot of stories, enabling community members to get out, and mostly clients that we've walked through the journey of that, to get out of the cocoon of fear, to gain confidence after knowing law and using law, to share their real life experiences for people to join in, and more specifically, people in their community to resonate, to have that critical consciousness that this is only done to us as a community. And thirdly, changing mindsets from an individual issue that Aisha is the only one going through this, to a community we issue that it is our community that is going through this. And if we do not work on it, then our community remains to lavish in poverty, miss opportunities, miss representatives, and the like. Secondly, we have developed community leaders. And this have come from our clients who have understood the law and now are paying it forward. The responsibility of I have helped you, we have walked through this journey together, walk through the process with 2 or 3 more people and ensure that they get an identity document. If you're not able to reach the end, then refer to the paralegal who will continue the journey with you. Thirdly, building skills of the community ambassadors in this movement. There is one thing to know the laws, to use it, but when it comes to shaping the system, a lot of skills are needed. Communication, petition writing, writing skills, advocacy. And these skills are very important for our ambassadors to be able to be confident in that, to amplify their voices and speak against injustice. We have something we talk about, the ladder of engagement, where we assess ambassadors and clients as they become responsible leaders. represent their community. When they start with minor responsibilities, you add them more tasks to climb the ladder, become more active participants, gain moderate responsibilities, and further have more tasks to become leaders with serious responsibilities in the community. Finally, we have been identifying and leveraging on opportunities. Globally, there is a global trend of transitioning to digital ID, and Kenya is not immune to this. And in 2019, this happened. And so these communities that have been working through this journey since 2012 are trying their best to get resolution. With no success, were able to use this opportunity to say, Kenya cannot transition without enabling us to be part of the system, to be treated fair, to apply for identity documents like any other Kenyan. So that was an opportunity. Policy formulation. When we are amending policies, there is need to have all-inclusive policies that will enable these communities to be treated fair and equal on a playing field that is equal for everyone. To access registration officers easily, to not have to travel long distances to reach registration officers, to not go through discrimination because I am called Aisha, or because I come from a community that is not recognized, or because my community is so small that doesn't have the numbers, but to be treated as an individual who has rights and can access identity documents. And finally, in the space of trying to deal with the challenges, we build movement. So as minority groups, we are small. It is important to include the rest, to help us amplify our voices as they support us, and also amplify and speak about our issues, understand our grievances and speak on our behalf, because chances are they might be heard better than we can be heard. What are the roles we've played and what are the community roles that they have played? We have been technical support. They want to learn skills, we provide. They want to move from point A to point B, we provide. They want to understand legal knowledge, we are there to support them. We support paralegals, we equip them, and they equip community members. They want to have the confidence they possess today, we are there to ensure. What roles have communities taken? They have drafted petitions. Currently, we have 3 petitions in Parliament. One for the Northeastern community, one for the Pemba community, one for the Nubian community, all in pursuit of recognition. We have gone to court through the Nubian Rights Forum and the Nubian community. We have had community ambassadors and communities mobilizing and organizing against injustices. We have had community ambassadors training others in order for them to be able to be in a position to understand the laws that govern citizenship rights in Kenya. They have availed themselves in any platform to share their stories without fear, without scare that they would not be profiled due to the confidence they have achieved. They have raised awareness, they have brought about togetherness within the community. They have been the focal. Yes?
Yeah, over time. We have 15 minutes. So you have
2 seconds.
2 seconds.
Okay. They have been able to mobilize other community members to join on board. What is the current situation? We are hopeful, just from an election, that this government, with their manifestos and their messaging, that they're a government of the people. So finally, our voices will be heard. In their manifesto, issues of identity were raised. What are the lessons we can learn? Civil society cannot be the face of the community, but can support them at the bottom level. Communities have power, communities know their challenge, and communities understand their solution. Let us amplify them, support them to represent themselves effectively. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aisha. That was really spellbinding. I could have listened to you, and I'm sure everybody else forever. And what really struck me is that if we want to see change, that people need to have that knowledge, be able to, from what I took away was that in setting up a forum, you had trained community paralegals. And what you just last said was, is not the organizations that would take this action, but it's building the capacity of communities to do so. And in the Nubian case, what they did was training community paralegals who then went back into their own communities to empower their own communities to take action. And to do so, they did that by sharing data that was collected by the community paralegals. They shared stories, personal stories. So they went from my problem to it's our problem. And together, this is unity. We can see the change that we want to see. That was really enlightening. And I think there are a lot of lessons learned here that everybody could take on board. I would like, I got a message, I just received a message from Sadi, who has to be on a call, he said, in 40 minutes, and he's begging if he could be the next to go. And then after Messan, if that is all right with Messan and Jacqueline. Is that okay for Sadi to make his presentation before he goes? Messan?
Okay.
I think if it's
Alors,
okay,
merci
then
beaucoup.
Sadi, you can go ahead. You have 15 minutes.
OK. Très bien, merci beaucoup. Merci Amina, merci beaucoup à Aïcha et aux autres collègues pour les excellentes présentations. Alors, tout à l'heure, je n'avais pas l'opportunité de me prononcer sur le pouvoir communautaire. C'est une excellente question à laquelle je n'ai pas pu réagir. Je voudrais le faire avant d'entamer ma présentation. Alors, sur la définition du pouvoir communautaire, j'avoue que quand la question m'était posée, c'était un peu difficile pour moi d'y répondre, même si j'ai plutôt l'habitude d'aborder ces questions-là. Mais lorsque vient le moment de le définir, c'était assez compliqué. Et cela m'a poussé à me poser une autre question. Peut-on parler de pouvoir communautaire dans un État unitaire, hyper centralisé et qui ne laisse aucune autonomie aux communautés? Alors, cette question, cela m'a traversé pendant toute la semaine, ça a traversé mon esprit pendant toute la semaine. Et la réponse à laquelle je suis arrivé, c'est qu'en réalité, lorsqu'on fait l'expérience de notre terrain, on se rend compte que les communautés ont un pouvoir intrinsèque, c'est-à-dire la communauté elle-même, en dehors de toute consécration de l'État, en dehors de toute reconnaissance par la loi, la communauté a par elle-même un pouvoir qui lui est intrinsèque. Ce pouvoir, c'est quoi? On parle de, pour moi, pouvoir communautaire, la capacité d'une communauté à s'auto-organiser et à pouvoir influencer sur les décisions qui les impactent. Dès lors, lorsqu'une communauté a cette capacité, on peut considérer au moins qu'il y a un pouvoir communautaire que je vais appeler résiduel. Maintenant, ce pouvoir communautaire, il peut être renforcé par une loi qui reconnaît, par exemple, un pouvoir de décision à une communauté, comme aussi ce pouvoir, il peut être fragilisé par une loi ou par des pratiques administratives. Et c'est à cela que nous assistons. Et de plus en plus, nous nous rendons compte que l'État, ou en tout cas les autorités exécutives, tentent de dénier ou bien d'arracher ce pouvoir des mains des communautés. Et notre travail justement à nous, ce n'est pas de créer ce pouvoir-là, mais de remettre ce pouvoir entre les mains des communautés afin qu'à travers l'autonomisation juridique, elle puisse s'affirmer. Donc ça, c'est ma conviction et c'est comme ça que nous le concevons en tout cas ici à Natural Justice au Sénégal. Et pour venir justement à Natural Justice au Sénégal, alors nous au Sénégal, nous travaillons spécifiquement sur les questions environnementales et tout notre processus d'autonomisation juridique tourne autour de la question des droits environnementaux. Donc, comment faire pour que les communautés puissent exercer, leurs droits environnementaux, que ce soit leur droit à la participation, leur droit d'accès à la justice environnementale, leur droit à vivre dans un environnement sain, un environnement intègre. Et par rapport à cela, Natural Justice intervient au Sénégal depuis 2018 et actuellement, nous sommes présents dans 5 zones 5 zones, je peux dire, qui présentent chacune une spécificité. Je ne pourrais pas toutes les présenter, mais je vais plutôt vous parler d'un cas spécifique qui est très préoccupant. C'est le cas de Bargny, certainement, vous l'avez constaté. Donc, Bargny, c'est une communauté de pêcheurs qui est, qui est dans la région de Dakar. Et cette communauté de pêcheurs qui vit là-bas depuis très longtemps est menacée par plusieurs projets industriels. En fait, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? C'est que depuis quelques années, on a constaté la volonté du gouvernement à faire de cette zone une zone industrielle. Ainsi, on constate la présence de plusieurs industries telles qu'un complexe sidérurgique, une centrale à charbon, un port minéralier et vraquier et un pôle urbain peut-être que vous entendez souvent parler, dont vous entendez souvent parler, qui est le port urbain de Diamniadio. Ainsi, Bargny est encerclé de toutes parts. Si j'avais l'opportunité de présenter la carte, ce serait beaucoup plus clair pour vous. Désolé, Amina, j'ai partagé sans demander l'autorisation, mais je ne sais pas si vous voyez mon écran. Alors, cette carte que vous voyez, donc vous voyez ici en petit point, là, là où vit la communauté. Et tout autour, vous avez les projets. Donc ici, avec ce petit pictogramme, vous avez le port minéralier et vraquier. Derrière, vous avez le port urbain. Ici, on n'a pas loin une cimenterie, une carrière pour une cimenterie. Et ici, vous avez Secosim. Et quelque part, ici, vous avez la centrale à charbon. Et de l'autre côté, la communauté aussi subit les régions côtières. Donc, c'est comme s'il y avait un rouleau compresseur qui s'abat sur cette communauté sans qu'elle ait la possibilité de s'arracher. Et le plus grave dans tout cela, c'est que les droits fonciers des communautés ne sont pas respectés sous prétexte qu'elles détiennent des titres fonciers qui sont, des titres qui sont plus ou moins précaires et qui ne donnent pas lieu à une indemnisation. Alors, cette communauté est en train de se débattre depuis plus de 10 ans maintenant contre tous ces projets-là, de discussion en discussion avec les autorités. Le problème n'arrive pas à se résoudre. Notre intervention dans cette zone a commencé en 2018. Et lorsque nous commencions en 2018, la communauté était désemparée puisqu'elle avait eu recours à plusieurs techniques pour essayer de contraindre les autorités à revoir leurs décisions. Seulement, dans leurs approches traditionnelles, elles n'avaient jamais envisagé cette approche juridique, cette approche de régler le problème en utilisant soit la loi ou bien en allant devant la justice. Et donc, notre intervention là-bas, au-delà du recrutement de ce qu'on appelle un cello, un paralégal, un parajuriste qui est issu de la communauté, notre travail a consisté d'abord à les sensibiliser sur les droits environnementaux que la loi leur reconnaît. Et en plus, à faire une analyse avec les communautés, bien entendu, sur les possibilités judiciaires qui s'offrent à elles afin de pouvoir challenger l'ensemble de ces projets qui sont dans ces communautés et leur faire l'exercice des libertés individuelles, des libertés associatives, etc., etc. Nous y sommes parvenus après quelques années parce que grâce à nos interventions, les approches revendicatives ont plus ou moins changé. Autant la revendication était plus basée sur la passion, sur le sentiment. Maintenant, de plus en plus, nous avons, grâce à ces efforts des communautés, à avoir une discussion objective sur les impacts réels de tous ces projets dans la localité. Et grâce à cette approche, on a pu développer plusieurs études sur les impacts environnementaux, les impacts sociaux, les impacts cumulatifs et les dangers qui se présentent pour les communautés. Et nous avons aussi fait des recommandations. L'outil le plus abouti dans la recherche de solutions est ce que nous appelons un audit communautaire. Donc, l'audit communautaire est une sorte d'audit, un document de diagnostic réalisé par la communauté avec notre accompagnement et qui consiste à renseigner tous les écarts normatifs constatés dans le cadre dans l'élaboration de ces projets-là et à apporter aussi des preuves objectives. Et donc, ce document d'audit communautaire a été produit durant pratiquement 2 ans. Nous l'avons terminé l'année passée. Et c'est ce document qui nous sert de plaidoyer pour le respect des droits humains et certainement qui va nous servir une fois que nous serons devant les tribunaux. Donc ça, c'est un peu le contexte et les réalisations. Dans le cadre de ce travail, il y avait beaucoup de défis. Le premier défi, quand vous mettez en œuvre un processus d'autonomisation juridique, c'est l'autonomisation même du parajuriste ou bien de celui qui est préposé à la mise en œuvre de ce processus. Parce que généralement, ce qui se passe, c'est que nous recrutons les parajuristes dans les communautés, au sein même des communautés. Et il peut arriver que ce parajuriste ne soit pas, peut-être pas juriste, ou bien parfois n'ait pas des connaissances très poussées sur les questions spécifiques telles que l'environnement. Donc, cela requiert donc un long processus de formation de ce parajuriste afin que lui-même ait assez d'autonomie pour autonomiser la communauté. Au-delà de cela, c'est la traduction peut-être en langue locale du cadre juridique, ce qui n'est pas du tout évident parce que nous-mêmes, parfois en apprenant le droit, nous avons des difficultés à le comprendre dans sa langue originelle. Et vouloir le traduire dans une autre langue est un autre défi. Et le troisième défi que j'ai identifié, c'est que généralement, une communauté peut ne pas être consciente de son pouvoir. Pourquoi je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, le pouvoir communautaire, c'est la capacité d'une communauté à s'auto-organiser et à pouvoir influencer sur les décisions qui les impactent. Mais parfois, dans une communauté, ils peuvent être en tout cas envahis par un projet, mais il y a tellement de scissions, il y a tellement comment dirais-je, il y a tellement de scissions, je dirais, entre les communautés, que ce pouvoir, on ne le perçoit pas. Et nous, dans notre contexte, nous avons eu parfois des difficultés à intervenir dans des communautés parce que tout justement, les communautés n'arrivaient pas à s'entendre autour de l'essentiel, autour de la nécessité de combattre un projet ou pas. Et parfois, cela peut être un frein à ce que nous faisons. Le dernier élément, c'est la durabilité des interventions. Qu'est-ce qui vous garantit que la formation que vous êtes en train de faire, vous pourrez, en tout cas, pourra être reproduite ailleurs, ou bien quand vous ne serez plus là, est-ce que la communauté pourra poursuivre cela? Nous, en ce qui nous concerne, comment on a essayé de répondre à ces défis, nous avons élaboré pas mal d'outils, déjà une stratégie de gestion des parajuristes, premièrement, mais aussi des outils de travail des cellos tels que vous le connaissez, les case logs, les case tracking forms, etc., que nous avons adaptés à notre contexte local. Et donc, l'ensemble de ces outils-là nous permet d'être au quotidien aux côtés des communautés et de nous assurer que leurs droits sont respectés. Alors, pour ne pas trop tirer en longueur, je m'en arrête là, tout en sachant que je reste ouvert à répondre à toutes questions relatives. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Thadi. That was interesting. I saw some similarities in what you shared and what Aisha also shared before you. And also in the terms of the kind of works that you're doing, there was a difference. Whereas Aisha's work is centered around legal identity, yours was to do with fishermen and land rights issues being violated by government. And yet the similarity also, because you spoke about some of the challenges, was communities not aware of their power, not knowing the law, disunity, and then your intervention in using paralegals. And Aisha also the same thing, also using paralegals who were able to empower their communities. So these are similarities and differences, and it really shows sort of issues that we face in the work that we go about doing in our respective countries. So thanks really for sharing. Before we go to Messan and Jacqueline, I believe there are a few questions or comments in the box, so we'll just have a look at them. And then we'll move on to Messan and Jacqueline. So in the question and answer box, I see Sainika Semudil has said, how can these Zoom continue oftentimes? I think maybe what he's asking is like, whether, I'm not sure, but could it be that that can this maybe be done more often to learn more? And then there's John Kamma from Liberia who said he would like to inquire if any experience where ethnicity becomes a source of discrimination or injustice. How do we use ethnicity to avoid discrimination and advance the best interest of society. I don't know if he has any particular person out of the two speakers so far that he wants to respond, but a source where ethnicity becomes a source of discrimination. How do we use ethnicity to avoid discrimination? So I don't know, maybe later we could ask Aisha to share, because she talked about ethnicity. She was talking about the marginalized people, the Nubians that they're working with. So maybe we could get Aisha to respond to that question. Amy, there are two questions in French.
Hi everyone, bonjour à tous. Je vais essayer à lire les questions en français. Il y a une question ici, pardon. Il y a une question ici de bâtiment. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Merci bien à Aïcha pour ce partage. Merci bien Aïcha pour ce partage dans lequel je me retrouve, car il y a une parfaite similitude avec nos interventions. Pour plus d'impact dans nos communautés, ne serait-il pas important de créer un lieu? OK, pardon. Qui permet l'accès aux différents documents de nos interventions, surtout les réussites. I think I'll hand it over to you, Amina, and these are questions that I think this is directly to Aisha, and maybe she can take notes and prepare her responses.
Yeah, we'll come back to, we'll have a question and answer session where the panelists can respond to these questions. So Aisha, please take note. We will now go to Messan and Jacqueline. Are you ready for your presentation?
Alors, nous vous remercions et nous... Merci beaucoup et nous vous remercions. Et nous allons, comme vous le voyez déjà sur l'écran, nous allons partager l'écran de ce que nous voulons présenter. Nous pouvons aller à l'image suivante. Nous allons premièrement vous présenter nos communautés, comment elles se présentent avant d'aborder les défis auxquels ces communautés sont confrontées. Voilà, comme vous le voyez en image, c'est une communauté qui, pour la plupart, sont installées aussi bien sur l'eau qu'en bordure de l'eau, c'est-à-dire au niveau de la berge, de la rivière. Leurs constructions sont faites en subiboutis et un peu bien ordonnées parfois faute de moyens ou d'espace, sont un peu exigus. Donc, voilà une image de ces communautés-là dans la ville de Cotonou que nous vous présentons. Ils construisent comme nous construisons sur la terre ferme, mais c'est sur l'eau et les maisons sont en hauteur, n'ont pas une fondation directe dans le sol, mais plutôt sur l'eau. Donc, voilà une image qui présente un peu la communauté. On va aller à la seconde image pour vous présenter également un contexte de la communauté, comment le commerce se fait, les petits commerces se font dans cet espace de vie. Voilà, elle a sa barque et elle a mis des marchandises dedans. Et elle circule avec la barque devant les maisons et entre les maisons. Et qui a besoin de quelque chose, s'approche d'elle, bien l'arrête pour l'acheter. Donc, voilà leur mode de vie, voilà le mode de fonctionnement. Nous allons passer également à l'image suivante qui montre toujours le cadre de vie. Voilà, pour se déplacer dans cette communauté, soit ils font des ponts artificiels en bois, faits en bois, soit ils utilisent la pirogue. Donc, eux, ils n'ont pas l'occasion de mettre les pieds sur terre pour se déplacer, mais se créent des canaux de circulation pour se déplacer, contrairement à nous qui avons dans les grandes villes qui ont des voies qui utilisent des motos, des voitures et autres, c'est la barque qui est leur mode de déplacement, ou parfois le pied pour passer d'une maison à une autre ou bien d'une concession à une autre. Voilà le mode de vie de cette communauté dont nous voulons vous parler. Et nous allons passer à l'image prochaine, prochaine image, qui vous montrera également ce que nous faisons avec ces communautés. Alors, pour l'organisation GEI que nous sommes, nous donnons une formation aux membres de la communauté parajuristes, comme le précédent panéliste l'a dit tout à l'heure, il faut autonomiser celui qui veut autonomiser la communauté juridiquement. Donc, on leur donne des connaissances basiques nécessaires pour sensibiliser la communauté, donner l'autonomisation à la communauté. Donc, nous donnons des formations parajuridiques, nous faisons des formations à des membres de la communauté que nous appelons des volontaires pour faire la cartographie, le recensement des membres de la communauté. Nous donnons également des formations à des défenseurs de la santé communautaire, parce que dans ces milieux de vie, il n'y a pas souvent l'hôpital mesurable, comment accéder facilement et à moindre coût au centre de santé, accéder aux soins de santé. Nous leur donnons des formations là-dessus et sensibiliser les communautés là-dessus. Donc, nous donnons des assistantes juridiques, des conseils juridiques aux parajuristes. Nous donnons également des orientations quand il y a des dossiers et des affaires qui méritent d'être orientés soit devant les juridictions, soit devant les instances administratives. Nous leur donnons l'orientation qu'il faut, nous les appuyons techniquement pour rédiger les actes qui saisissent les juridictions ou les instances administratives. Nous faisons également des sensibilisations communautaires. Nos sensibilisations communautaires prennent souvent 3 formes. Nous faisons des projections vidéo pour sensibiliser les communautés, et ces projections sont faites souvent les soirs, c'est-à-dire la nuit, où on a la chance d'avoir tout le monde à la maison, aussi bien les hommes, les femmes, les commerçants, les enfants qui vont quitter l'école. On a la chance de voir tout le monde à la maison. Nous choisissons ces moments-là pour faire les projections de vidéos, pour leur montrer leurs droits et leurs devoirs dans la société. Autre chose que nous utilisons comme sensibilisation, nous faisons des présentations communautaires. Un parajuriste va prendre un sujet de droit, on va réunir les communautés et leur exposer ce sujet du droit. Quand on voit qu'ils sont en manque ou bien ils n'ont pas cette information, donc il fait la présentation communautaire. Il y a aussi les théâtres que nous utilisons pour sensibiliser. Nous venons également en appui à ces communautés en les aidant à faire du plaidoyer auprès des autorités quand certains de leurs droits, c'est-à-dire le droit violé en masse, de la communauté violée en masse, nous leur permettons de faire des plaidoyers auprès des autorités. Et ce que nous appelons fédération ici, nous n'avons pas qu'une communauté, nous avons les communautés que nous vous avons présentées précédemment, ils sont près d'une quarantaine dans Cotonou. Donc, nous les avons regroupés en ce que nous avons appelé la Fédération d'habitants des zones Touti, Bidonville, de la République du Bénin. Jacqueline, un parajuriste, va vous présenter plus ou moins ce que les membres de cette communauté font pour autonomiser juridiquement les communautés.
Alors, en tant que membre de la communauté et parajuriste aidant cette communauté, nous nous organisons à nous regrouper en groupe d'épargne ou bien à nous contribuer au bien-être de notre communauté. Nous faisons aussi, et par l'aide de Julie, la petite Julie nous donne des formations sur comment faire cette cartographie de services, des contacts de ces maisons. Ils nous apprennent ça, donc grâce à ça, on apprend ça. Nous, en tant que les parajuristes et les procureurs, nous sommes tous ensemble pour profiler cette communauté là où il y a des difficultés. Nous faisons aussi des plaidoiries et face à cette communauté menacée par le gouvernement et par rapport à la formation de parajuristes. Donc, sans la formation, nous ne pouvons pas faire face à ces projets-là. Donc, face à ces menaces, nous faisons des plaidoiries à l'appui des cartographies ou des profilages que nous avions fait pour appuyer la lettre ou la demande par rapport au gouvernement, par rapport aux institutions qui ont fait face ou qui ont menacé cette communauté-là. Nous faisons aussi des théâtres, comme l'avait dit M. Bussa, pour au moins sensibiliser les communautés sur ce qui se passe dans leur communauté ou par rapport à des fraudes ou à des menaces ou à des choses, comment dirais-je, à des problèmes que nous rencontrons dans la ville, les violations que nous ne savons pas, nous vivons. Donc, par rapport à cette formation de parajuridique, en tant que parents, comme moi, nous les aidons à leur donner des satisfactions de part et d'autre. Donc, voilà un peu ce que nous, en tant que la fédération, les membres de la communauté, et en tant que membre de la communauté, les parajuristes, nous faisons dans cette communauté.
Merci, Madame Jacqueline. Nous allons continuer sur la prochaine image qui montre par lequel nous allons commencer à parler, voilà, des images sur nos formations de parajuristes où c'est vraiment participatif. Nous ne le donnons pas directement, mais nous les laissons expérimenter ou bien s'exercer sur ce que nous allons faire. Donc, c'est pratique, c'est beaucoup plus pratique. Il est vrai, c'est théorique, nous leur donnons l'information, mais nous leur donnons l'occasion d'exercer et chacun passe à tout le rôle. Nous allons passer également aux prochaines images qui montrent aussi d'autres activités que nous menons. Nous allons passer aux prochaines images. Voilà, vous avez les deux premières images qui montrent nos formations, la formation du parajuriste, la formation de défenseur de la santé communautaire. Et aussi, vous allez voir dans des personnes alignées, c'est lors d'une sensibilisation communautaire en temps de crue, on est obligé parfois de passer dans l'eau, aussi bien les membres du staff de GIE que les volontaires, parajuristes ou défenseurs de la santé communautaire, on est obligé de passer. Voilà. Alors, nous allons vous montrer une carte, la carte là, qui parle beaucoup plus des différentes communautés. Vous allez voir les parties soulignées en rouge. Nous avons connu un premier déguerpissement de ces communautés parce que c'est le grand défi auquel ces communautés sont confrontées. Le gouvernement, sous le prétexte d'assainir la berge lagunaire, menace ces populations de quitter l'eau, de quitter la bordure de la berge lagunaire. Alors, il y a eu un premier déguerpissement en 2017, ce qui a attiré notre attention, nous n'avons pas compris. Et en 2019, le gouvernement, en juillet 2019, plus précisément, le gouvernement a envoyé ses émissaires monter sur le terrain pour pouvoir planifier le déguerpissement de cette communauté. Quand nous avons appris ça, nous avons écrit au gouvernement pour savoir quel est le plan. Parce que les lois béninoises exigent que tout un processus soit fait avant qu'on ne dégage les communautés. Alors, nous avons demandé aux autorités, à savoir le maire de la ville de Cotonou, le préfet et le ministre du cadre de vie, quelles sont les mesures qui sont prises pour, à savoir le plan qui est fait, quelle communauté est concernée, quelles sont les études d'impact environnemental qui sont faites avant la planification du déguerpissement, quel est le plan de relocalisation, d'installation nouvelle, de relogement de ces communautés et bien d'autres choses. En principe, le gouvernement doit associer.
You have 1 minute. 1 minute, please.
OK. Donc, nous avons mené plusieurs actions, des actions de plaidoyer. Nous avons pu parvenir à écrire au gouvernement, etc. Dans ce cadre, il y a eu une sommation qui a été donnée aux membres de la communauté de 72 heures de quitter leur territoire de soins en 72 heures. Nous avons produit une vidéo que nous allons vous faire voir tout à l'heure. Nous allons vous faire voir en 2 minutes. C'est une vidéo de 2 minutes. Je ne sais pas si on pourra, avec le temps qui nous est imparti, on pourra en parler. Voilà la vidéo. Ça parle elle est intitulée Azan, c'est-à-dire 72 heures, qui nous a été donnée. Nous vivons depuis plusieurs décennies, voire des siècles pour certains, mais on nous demande de quitter nos lieux, nos cadres de vie en 72 heures. Ça a été difficile pour les communautés, nous avons bataillé dur, mais finalement, de 72 heures jusqu'à aujourd'hui, avec nos actions, parce qu'on a tenu à la culotte aussi les autorités gouvernementales et municipales, jusqu'à aujourd'hui, ils n'ont pas pu être déguerpis, ils sont encore sur les pieds. Alors, nous avons également un déguerpissement qui est intervenu à la bordure, sur la berge, dans le marché de Dantopa et dans les marchés de Dantopa et de Nisebo. La même bataille a été faite, mais malheureusement, beaucoup de femmes, plus de 800 femmes qui vendent des produits halieutiques au bord de cette berge ont été déplacées. Elles n'ont pas été relogées dans un autre marché. Elles utilisent des emplacements de fortune maintenant où il n'y a pas de hangar, il n'y a rien, il n'y a pas de lumière. Quand il pleut, elles sont laissées à leur propre sort et nous continuons la bataille dans ce sens pour qu'elles soient relogées dans un marché. Nous allons passer au prochain image. Le prochain image qui... Alors, nous avons certainement sauté des images. Alors, voilà plus ou moins la bataille que nous avons menée avec ces communautés pour qu'elles ne soient pas déplacées de leur cadre de vie, de leur milieu de vie auquel ils sont installés depuis. Voilà, quand ces femmes étaient déguerpies, elles étaient laissées à leur propre sort, il n'y avait pas de hangar, vous voyez clairement qu'elles sont avec leurs marchandises, il n'y a pas de hangar, il n'y a nulle part où elles vont aller s'installer. Elles subissent le même sort depuis 2019. 2019, à ce jour, nous continuons de rencontrer les autorités pour qu'une solution leur soit trouvée, mais la solution n'est toujours pas trouvée, mais le dossier comme cela se doit. Et voilà plus ou moins la bataille que nous menons avec cette communauté, parce que tout le monde a un droit à un lieu de vie, à un logement, et ce droit-là ne peut pas être reconnu à certains et nous pouvons être discriminés par rapport à ça. C'est l'objet, les raisons de notre bataille à ce combat. Nous nous remercions, nous présenterons nos excuses si nous avons égrené sur ce temps. Et merci à tous de nous avoir suivis. Nous sommes ouverts pour toutes questions de compréhension.
No, you actually haven't gone over time. Thank you actually for keeping. We're just looking at the time it's going, and we'll still have another round, so you could still add on. And so those that went over will reduce their time and give you extra time. So we'll still try to make up for it. Yes. But thanks so much for sharing. The picture says 1,000 words. And showing those pictures, it really shows what people are going through. Not having decent accommodation, being ejected from land, having to live in unsanitary conditions, so there is a lot going on. And yet again, I saw similarities in what you're doing, working as paralegals, training paralegals so that they can raise awareness to communities that are not aware of their rights, don't know about the law. And you're doing amazing work. Using videos, I really like that, using videos so that when children come home, they can sit and watch these videos that teaches them their rights and the laws and use of drama and theater. So this is already from just 3 participants. We have seen so much in how they have the processes or how they go about building community power that I'm personally learning from, and I'm sure others that are listening are also learning from. So thank you so much for sharing. And like I said, in the next round, we'll give you more minutes and we'll reduce time for those that exceeded the time limit. It's also my fault. I do take that responsibility. So we'll go to Daphne and then Evans. So Daphne.
Okay, thank you very much. I was trying to project, but I guess I can go on. And I think indirectly, there's been an appeal to me to be brief so that to cover the time, the time lost, I'll try my possible best and then see how we can catch up during questions and answers, because sometimes when I join meetings and the whole meetings is about, you know, presentation, and there's no interaction, I'm not happy. So I'll be very brief, and then we will move ahead during the question time, because when I listen to other panelists, and some of the techniques and tools are the same. It's just that they are in different contexts, and the way they play out are the lessons that we're going to learn today. And so I had said that LRC, national organization, works in different communities within Ghana. And in this particular scenario that I'm going to give, it's in relation to rural poor. So we had the project in northern part of Ghana. And generally in Ghana, issue that you have decentralized power. And in terms of district assemblies or municipalities, you have the tendency of a closed governance. So you have the DCE, you have his staff, and then you also have some government appointees making all the decisions and making bylaws, and then you know, meting it out on the community. Now, over the period, what was realized was that one, there was inadequate citizen engagement in local governance processes. So at the beginning of the year, you have the DCE, you have the district coordinating director, you have the planner and some others, and they just sit and then have a meeting, and that's it. So whatever comes out is what goes for the community. And then also the other problem was limited access to information, you know, on development processes of the district assembly or municipal assembly. So the question is, how did you do the needs assessment? How did you know that this community wanted A or B or C? How did you come about with the budget? What went into the planning? So all that, you know, there was limited access to that information. Then the other thing was that there's a perceived corruption in the area, because once there's no information flow, there's this perception that, look, you just choose, pick and choose contractors, or pick and choose people to come do the work, and we, the community, are just sitting. We don't know what is happening, and we don't know how we can contribute. And of course, that ends up on poor service delivery, because community is not involved, just a few people, and some of the time the people do not even come from the area. They are transferred to the community. And so we set out on this project to do a number of things, to see how we could push information to community to help them, you know, have the power that they already have. And then also to see how we could improve, you know, local governance. So we looked at a number of things, bottom-up approach, top-down approach. So empowering communities. I heard other moderators talk about paralegals. In our approach, we looked at community monitoring groups. So forming monitoring groups from the community. So women groups, youth groups, men associations like seamstresses, hairdressers, butchers association, you know, there are these associations. So forming monitoring groups from these groups of people to monitor the implementation of capital projects in their communities. And then the second approach, after forming these monitoring groups, was empowering communities to advocate and demand improved service. So you have these monitoring groups who are in the communities, who are, you know, empowering their colleagues to also demand. And then demand also for increased community participation. So demanding, telling the district assembly, you cannot have a plan without us having a say. We need to have a say. And then the other thing we did, what we've learned over the period is that in terms of community power, if it is not done at a parallel level with government structures, there's going to be an imbalance, because you give so much power to community will demand so much. But if you don't bring, you know, government structures to a point where they understand why there is community power and why community is talking the way they are talking, then it becomes a fight, and the purpose for which, you know, we are having all this discourse is lost. And so what we did was also to support, you know, government, which is district assemblies, municipal assemblies, to be more responsive. So once in a while, reiterate what the law says a district assembly should do, what the law says a chief executive officer should do, what the law says about rights to information. So you're giving them what their responsibilities are and how they have to be responsive to the community power that is growing, such that when they meet, you know, results come out. And I must say, over the period, we've had a lot of success, in the sense that you now have district assemblies giving information, and also giving avenues for communities to tell them of their needs, to tell them how they feel their needs should be solved. And then there's a discourse between the two groups of people. The other thing that we also did in terms of empowering was to get citizens to monitor the projects that district assemblies were building. So say, for instance, if district assembly in a meeting, they both agree that they needed a school, and district assembly takes it up, goes through the procurement processes and chooses a contractor. When the contractor is on the field, the community monitors what the contractor is doing. So if the contractor is supposed to build six classroom block, and he does 5, the community are able to monitor that, because they know, you know, this is the contract and this is what you're supposed to do. They are able to go back to the assembly and say, no, this is not what we agreed to. And actually, some contractors will go back, you know, to the field and correct, you know, what they've done. And the other thing is that in terms of community power, we also looked at the way community would assess the district. You know how it is when you know that someone is watching and someone is grading you more or less. So at the end of the year, there's an assessment where community says, look, in terms of, you know, this year, this is how we're going to rate you. So there was this issue of scorecards, which was introduced, and then there were ratings. And of course, when you look at the, hello, am I okay? When you look at how the statistics go, there was improvement. So for every year, you'd realize that district assembly are, you know, getting better in terms of responsiveness. Then I think I have 5 more minutes. So the challenges, issues of trust of the project and the deliverables. I mean, civil society, we have issues where when we go in, government doesn't trust us because they feel we are working, we are inciting people against government. And then you go to people and people say you are an informant from government. You're coming to listen on and you're coming to take them back to government. And so sometimes the trust between, you go this way, no trust, you go this way, no trust. So initially you just have to build the trust. And I'm sure as civil society organizations, we know how to build trust of the community. Then the other thing is political interference. So no matter how you help harness power in the community, when there's political interference, there are issues. I think someone talked about the fact that there's instability, in terms of disunity. And that's what also happens. So what we've done, or what we're doing, is building community trust, I've said that, and then having a proper community entry. If you don't have a proper community entry, then the purpose for which you want to build and for the next 3-4 years, you're going to have big issues. In Ghana, for instance, the system is very strong. And so in every approach, we need to look at who the chief is, what are the views of the chief, how do you court the chief to be able to, gather, or to be able to get people interested and all. And then the last thing is the fact that we need to be neutral. So you go in, you have to be neutral if you are able to build community power, because everyone has his or her opinion. And as someone standing in between, you would have to be neutral so that the trust is built. So I'll stop here, and probably during the question and answer period, I'll be able to answer or explain more on what you're doing on this project. Thank you very much, and over.
Thank you, Daphne, for sharing with us your own approach. So yours, instead of working with community paralegals, you work with community monitoring groups, and they are the ones that monitor activities of the government. So what you shared also is that in the course of, you train them to monitor, but also that you realize from your own lessons learned that if communities are making demands and the government is not aware of now the change in the communities, it creates a lot of friction. So you also work with the government to understand where communities are coming from. So it's actually a horizontal approach, because now the two are now coming together based on what you said, and they are now actually working together on issues that the communities need. So you're building capacity of communities, you're building capacity of government. So you're taking, that's a two-pronged approach that you're taking. And in terms of civil society organizations, you said that they are not trusted. Sometimes they're not trusted by government, and they're also sometimes not trusted by community. So the entry into communities is key, and also being neutral, so that neither side thinks you're taking on sides with anyone. So that's really very interesting approach to building community power. And here too, there were a lot of learnings. So the last to hear from is Evans. Evans, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
So the floor is yours, Evans.
Okay, let me share my screen. So I'll bring to us about a project called Mukuru Special Planning Area that pushed for provision of basic services in a slum called Mukuru. So I'll start with giving a description of how Mukuru slum looks like. So trying to scroll down. Okay, so basically, there's a slide that shows about, that has maps. Okay, sir. Okay, so Mukuru is one of the slum areas that is within Nairobi. That is the capital city of Kenya, and it's located within an industrial area, and that is to the southeast of the CBD. So the area is within an acreage of 647 acres that is privately owned, and has a population of over 400,000 people. So here is an image of how densely populated that area is. And the settlement is divided into 3 villages. We have Mukuru kwa Njenga over here. There is Mukuru kwa Ruben and Mukuru Viwandani. And there is also a river that passes through the 3 settlements. I think we can go to the next slide. So this slum has got a lot of challenges where people living in there have been discriminated in terms of access to basic services. And in terms of water, water is being provided by informal service providers that use pipes that lay on the ground, some of which pass through open drainages, as you can see from here. And there are meters that control these, the supply of the water. So in terms of this water safety, cleanliness, and hygiene, you find people are exposed to vulnerability in terms of cholera outbreaks, because the pipes basically have leakages that you find contaminates the water, therefore exposing people to waterborne diseases. So the next slide. We can move on to the next slide. Yeah, so sanitation is yet another problem. There are very few toilets in Mukuru, that is around 3,000 over the population of 4,000 people. That shows us that averagely one toilet is being shared by over 103 people using one toilet. And toilet basically pit latrines that have been dug. And in terms of emptying them when it rains, sorry, when the toilets are full, the structure owner, the people who own those plots, they hire young people to empty the toilets, put in using buckets, and then drain to the river. So a photo here is showing how the young people who've been hired carrying and transporting human waste and emptying it to the river. Is a common scenario that you find in Mukuru slum. And basically, they've called it a name, like an ambulance. These people who carry, so you move around Mukuru, you find people carrying this human waste. Those are ambulances when you get to the slum. So we go to the next slide. Electricity is yet another problem within the area. So you find illegal connections that are being done by illegal providers is most common. So you find a lot of wires carrying heavy current as electricity being supplied to the residents in the area. So this is very common, and that has exposed residents to rampant fire outbreaks that has resulted to deaths of people, including children and women. the next slide. The road networks are poor. You can see from here, there's a lot of human solid waste that has been disposed and thrown to the roads. Businesses have encroached those spaces, and there are a lot of surface runoff because of the poor drainages that dominate the area. So we can go to the next slide. Now, because of all these challenges, Akiba Mashinani Trust, together with other organizations, that is the civil society, the academia, we have the University of Nairobi, Strathmore University, UC Berkeley, California, the civil society such as Katiba Institute, we came together, sat, and with the people in Mukuru to see how else are we going to address these challenges. So we collected data, that is mapping all the facilities, the few facilities that are there in Mukuru, the few hospitals, the few schools, lack of drainage systems, no toilets, in preparation of to take this information or this data that has been collected to the county government for action, so that we'll be able now to provide the basic services. So you can see photos here of community people who've been trained on how to carry out mapping, how to number their houses, bring out the number of houses that are there in Mukuru, vis-a-vis the lack of services to provide for the people. So a picture here shows women doing mapping exercise to showcase how those services are lacking in the settlement. We can go to the next. So when we went to the county government and took this data, the first thing, the county was shocked because then they did not have the data, the information about how many people live in Mukuru, how many services, so the lack of services and all that. So this prompted them to declare Mukuru a special area for planning, and they are using the County Government Act of 2012 that stipulates that if an area has very unique development challenges, then the county can have an opportunity first to declare it a special planning area, to allow for a 2-year period where the county government can sit together with the people and ask people the kind of development they want, the manner in which it should be done, so as people will be able to access the basic services. So that was done back in 2017, and we have a Gazette notice, that is 7654, that declared Mukuru kwa Njenga, here highlighted in green, Mukuru kwa Ruben and Viwandani as a special area for planning. So people had the opportunities to sit together with the state, with the county officials, so that they're able now to put together the kind of development they want in terms of water, in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of infra.
Sorry, I think I lost Evans.
Yeah, we can't hear him.
Evans, please adjust your sound. We are losing you. Oh no.
Okay. Amy, can you hear me? Hi, Amy, am I audible now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
okay.
now we can
I
hear
can
you.
proceed. So after sitting together with the county, the bigger question, the bigger elephant in the room was how are we going to ensure that we bring all the 400,000 people together to engage them in the planning process. So because of the experience and the expertise that we have in community organizing, we proposed to the county government a model of community participation and sensitization about the special planning area. So we had a model whereby one plot, which has averagely around 10 rooms, come together to form a cell. And then the 10 cells come together to form a subcluster or a baraza. And then 10 barazas come together to form a segment. So through that structure, we were able to form 13 segments in Mukuru. So using this model, we were able now to mobilize, to create awareness about the special planning area, notifying people to organize, to get ready for them to come and contribute and give their views about how they want their settlements to look like, the kind of development they want. And we are using and banking community people whom we call mobilizers. So because Mukuru has 30 villages, we are able to bring on board 450 mobilizers. That is 15 mobilizers in each village who are able to create awareness and help in the creation of the cells and the sub-clusters in preparation for the planning process. So during the planning now, we were using the segments as a structure to engage the people. It was at this point, at the segment level, these 13 segments, where the county government, through the departments of housing, education, health, land, water, finance, and environment, were able to come together with the people, together with organizations that had interest in supporting the Mukuru people, to come sit together with the people and discuss how they wanted their development to look like. And in that process, there are so many challenges, and we had a tool that is called Views from the Frontline, where people were able to prioritize and rank the challenges they are going through, the threats, so that they're able now to prioritize in terms of implementation. So that came up with the development of short-term needs, medium-term and long-term, that guided the development of the plan. So in that process, organizations were sitting together in consortia. That is, that's according to this, the departments within the county government, where now the county was leading the discussions. So in those consortia, communities were able to negotiate and put forth their discussions. For example, they wanted roads, and there were basic standards that are defined within the planning framework, where the minimum standard of measurements for a road, where people now were able to negotiate to reduce the sizes of the roads to fit in the limited space that are there in the informal settlements. So the consortia were able to sit together, come up with plans, and then validate the plans when they prepared the sector briefs for people now to either to agree or disagree whether that information that they presented was captured well, or there were alterations that needed to be done. So that was a back and forth discussion with communities to prepare the plans. And after the discussion, the consultation meetings, it led to the development of a Mukuru integrated development plan that sought to bring solutions based on the sectors that are aligned to the county government. So we can move in now to the next slide.
Evans, you need to start rounding up. You have about 2 minutes.
Okay. So you can say we can now go quickly just to show how the roads were before and after the implementation. Roads have been constructed. Move to the next slide. Kindly move to the next slide. So water, the water users from the county government were able to supply. So we have sewer system having been constructed and the hospitals having been built. So this is the former president who came in to launch the hospitals that were constructed in Mukuru. So he was present during the launch and he came in during when the hospital was being opened. So this is His Excellency, the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. So we can move into the next slide. So there are some of the challenges that were experienced during the planning process. So the people who are community mobilizers were threatened by the service providers. People were selling water, people were doing the electricity connections. The political transitions was another challenge, whereby this process began in 2017 with a different political regime under the governor of Evans Kidero. And then now there's another government that came in. So those back and forth delayed the process. And then security of tenure is another problem in Mukuru because the land is owned privately. So we had to ensure and work around filing petitions to ensure that land reverts back to the community. We can move to the next slide. So our role in terms of, there's the role of the community and the role of Akiba Mashinani Trust. The role of the community was to do data collection, to map out the utilities that are there within the informal settlement, to do the numbering of the houses. So the whole process was community-led. They were able to document, produce films, produce videos about the challenges they are going through. And this was basically led by the youths. They were able to present this data themselves to the county government, and in some cases, hold peaceful demonstrations to push the county government and the local administration to provide for services. Our major role was basically training them on this mapping exercise and organize them to do learning exchanges from communities that have managed to run their projects successfully. The next slide.
Evans, your time is up. We're running out of time. We just have a few more minutes to go. So we'll have to stop here. Okay. But thank you so much for sharing. It's, again, seeing pictures really makes the difference. And I saw similarities with Daphne, what she presented in terms of community mobilizers and really having to work with government so that they don't feel threatened and they don't threaten the community mobilizers. So that was very insightful. Thank you for sharing. So I would like to call on Messan and Jacqueline. We have just a few minutes left. So they're the only ones that are going to, if they have anything else that they would like to share with us, you have, unfortunately, 3 minutes because I've been told we have less than 10 minutes. And Evans, I believe will you share your slides with us? Maybe we can.
Merci beaucoup. Nous pensions que l'essentiel a été dit, même si nous n'avons pas tout développé, nous n'allons pas encore prendre le temps et nous sommes ouverts aux questions s'il y a des questions qui vont nous être adressées pour mieux comprendre quelque chose. Nous pensons que nous avions dit l'essentiel sur notre présentation. Merci.
Amina, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Alors, je ne sais pas si,
Thank you.
Celestina traduit ce que
okay, so what we'll do now to just use the few minutes we've got left, there's some comments, or if there's any one that wants to ask a question, you can raise your hand, but we just have very few minutes left. Time has really flown by so fast. It was really very interesting learning from our panelists. So maybe Amy, if there's anything in French that you want to read off in the comments.
Yes, I can start and share with, sorry. There was one question that had been posted to Tade. I don't know if Tade is still with us. I had shared it with him.
He's probably
is Tade still with us?
He responded in the chat box.
Yes, it's in the chat box.
Yeah,
okay, fine. That was the only question in French. The rest are in English. Thank you.
So there were a couple of questions in the English, and responses were also have been made in the chat, in the Q&A section. one of them was like, is Kenya taking bold steps to recognize and work with community-based paralegals? And the response was that it's still a work in progress, and CSOs and paralegals are still advocating for increased financing for paralegals. Even if we have a Legal Aid Act, we're yet to receive state financing for this work. And I believe this is an issue that runs across all organizations and countries that are working with paralegals, community paralegals. Another one was, how can we support creative, sustainable solutions to address systemic injustice? And the response is that by placing communities at the center of whatever justice initiative and sustainability can be arrived at when the communities are at the front of a justice initiative and they truly and genuinely own the process. Often creative solutions come from the very communities experiencing the injustices. I believe we probably don't have any more time. And so I do apologize, we're going to have to end here, but I'd like to just say that thank you all for participating in this conversation. And if you're not already a member of the West Africa Legal Empowerment Network, then please register. We'd love to work and partner with you as we tackle injustices in the region. We will share an email address that can be used, and we'll also share a summary and recording of this conversation with all the participants. Thank you so much once again, and thank you to our panelists for sharing their experiences, very insightful and a lot of learning and takeaway. So thank you once again. We truly appreciate your being here with us today. Thank you.